Hello and welcome back to part 2 of Quest Exposed. And now Mod Raven has finished regaling us with tales of his glories in quest making.
That'll never stop.
Right, so we've got quite far through development now. You've gone through various cycles, you've got environments built and such like. What's the closing stages of quests then?
It's done, ship it.
Ship it. I would say testing, maybe. First.
Oh yeah.
That's integrated part of the development process.
It is integrated.
now.
You test the whole thing as a whole, because we break it up into bits when we're testing it at the moment with the sort of sprint structure, and then you try everything in one go, because there are things that worked fine before that then suddenly don't. As Heart of Stone will prove.
And of course, once you've got it all there, you can see how it properly flows from beginning to end. You can get this is sort of like at the point that it goes out for like wider team feedback. I mean, it's been getting feedback throughout the whole thing, generally from inside the team and stakeholders. But at this point, you can go sort of like you can have people just play through it and give their opinion.
It's good for getting fresh eyes on the almost finalised products, because people that have been giving feedback throughout, you've kind of got that built-up bias, I suppose, because you've seen all the different iterations. Whereas when we do the wider team feedback, it's just everybody is new to it, everyone's fresh, and seeing it from a player's perspective.
Well, this is about the point that the community team, for instance, gets to look at it, where when there's the wide playthrough, all the community managers get offered an opportunity to play through all the quests and then provide feedback if we need to, and also be aware of how we need to talk about it to the community as well.
Shouldn't we reintroduce ourselves because it's a new day?
That's a good point, yes. Well, I'm Mod MattHe, but I'm used to being here. You are?
Hello again, I'm Mod Wilson.
I'm still Mod Stu.
I'm Mod Rowley.
I'm Mod Jack.
And I'm Mod Raven.
And it's Saturday.
It's Saturday when they're listening to this, yes.
Oh,
but they do know we don't come in, especially on the Saturday, to record.
Don't break the magic. Yes, children of the world, we want to explain that we do come in on Saturday because we love you all so much.
Yeah, I often come in on Saturdays and try to get extra work done.
This is true.
It's all actually live.
When I come in on Saturday, I raid the fridge. Free stuff.
Free stuff. But you have to get into this room. This is a special locked room with a special passcode.
It's not locked in any serious way. I mean, look, there's no ceiling.
Right. So community management, get to have a look at it then. Of course, alongside your development stuff, creative services would have been making artwork to put out with the release, and marketing will have been working on news posts and stuff like that to go with it as well.
Yeah, and we'll be doing documentation for those teams so that they can get a condensed understanding of the project from their perspective. So what aspects of it are the selling points, what maybe things we don't want to reveal in a behind-the-scenes video, to say who the big bad monster is you fight at the end or whatever it is.
Yeah, because we don't normally want BTSs to spoiler the entire thing for a player. No. And then it's released. So what happens after release?
Panic.
There you go.
No, I was done.
We hang around in game, hanging around near the quest start point, sassing people. That's what I do.
That's you, Mod Jack.
I mean, I don't think it's too like speaking for everybody, but I think it's generally the most enjoyable part.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's so exciting.
Yep.
It's good to go in, because it's not just in game, but we go on like Reddit, Twitter, the forums, and we go around looking for feedback. Mostly we go around looking for glory, because we put all the work in, and I'll be honest, we like to see people going, this is cool, and they go, yes, enjoy it, I like you. People are playing my thing. People are playing my thing. But there is that, you've spent sometimes months working on it, so like, they like it, they really like it, and it's good.
Or they don't.
Or they hate it, and then you spend your time going, okay, what is it they really don't like, and you try and work out ways to fix it. Not for them, obviously people do hate it because they've already played it and you can't currently repeat a lot of quests, but you can make it better for the next way the people that play it.
Yeah, and generally in the forums is the first place where people start posting saying sort of like, I've run into something, is this a bug? And you're able to jump on it quite quick if it is something like that, or if it's not, then people just start yelling at that person and telling them how to play it properly.
We're always making difficult calls like, is this actually going to be intuitive enough for people? Are people going to be able to get through this bit?
have we made the right balance here of challenge and accessibility?
Immediate
day one feedback tells us whether we got it right.
One of the things that we can do these days, which we didn't right at the very start when I joined first, is that you can now watch people streaming as they live play the quest. I was watching the Broken Home. I can't remember who did it, but just they got to that first room where the servant gets snatched into the portrait, and they screamed and yelled, "What fresh hell is this?"
That made your day, yeah?
It was great.
Another great thing I think we've been doing in recent years, more behind the scenes, is that we've got our analytics team now. The guys just poring over every single statistical detail of a content's release, and we can see things like the lowest and average completion times, all of the stages of every quest to see where lots of players drop off and kind of get stuck, so that we can direct any further changes we make to kind of smooth things out and help players to overcome maybe some of the intuitive elements that we haven't kind of picked.
That's not to say that we just nerf it whenever it's hard.
No, of course not. No.
But we have there are real sticking points that aren't supposed to be sticking points. There's no puzzle there. Why are people stopping there?
Yeah, and realise there's not a signpost needed to carry them forward to the next stage.
It's not about ease, it's just about approachability and accessibility, sorry.
At this point, the community team feedback, which I remember, we feedback to the developers, let them know what the response is and where we're seeing bugs or issues or really good feedback as well.
It does happen.
It does happen. You get quite a lot of very good feedback. Right, okay. So that's Quest. And then it ends up on our wiki and ends up on the RuneScape wiki. And guides get made for it. And it is immortal.
Yep, and players dig through it to find all of the trivia and the shout-outs that we've done and put them at the bottom of the page, and then it ends up on like TV tropes and stuff like that. If we've been particularly cheesy in one of our references.
TV tropes is the real prize.
Is it? Yeah. Right, okay.
I'm really pleased to see a lot of the stuff I've done as one up on TV tropes. Yes.
Speaking of which, where do you go for inspiration?
TV tropes.
Actually, from a narrative design approach, I've found that every story has already been told to some extent, and that it's really about choosing which trope you want to work on or perhaps riff on.
Or avoid.
Avoid. So actually I find that the tropes are very beneficial in defining the structure of the story I want to be telling, even if it's a deconstruction of a well-known story.
Yeah.
Sorry to make it a bit more personal at the moment, but I'm finding this very much with the Mireki quest at the minute.
Right.
It's vampires. It's kind of well-trodden ground.
It is,
so it's very difficult to come up with something that's a bit different and new.
Especially in the last 20 years.
That's maybe worth thinking about. That's part of our job. Something we haven't really talked about is not to just do what's expected, but to come up with something fresh and interesting that the players aren't expecting. Because they have certain, particularly in the next episode in the series, they have certain expectations, certain subjects they're expecting to be covered, and a certain resolution they're expecting. But actually, our job is to surprise them and have something that they weren't really expecting, and that's quite a difficult tension.
Yeah.
How does that affect the lore of a quest? Because obviously, our lore community are very, very keen on their history of the game, but they generally have a canon in their head of how the game is shaped. And what they expect certain things to be. But as you say, part of our responsibility developing quests is to turn those slightly tricky corners and come at unexpected angles. How do you think that affects the lore community as a whole on that basis?
I've generally found that the majority of the lore community are very receptive to the content we put out, the ideas. Sure, they do all have their own theories and headcanon, but that's just the fun element of trying to pick apart lore. They're not expecting necessarily that these things should come to pass.
Okay.
I think the best thing to do is you need to be true to the existing lore.
Yeah.
So you follow the existing lore, but the idea is you add in more and you tweak things more. So rather than the frustration of going, well, this isn't fit, they instead, the goal is to give the lore community more questions to ask, more things to go, wait, and to pick apart more stuff and try and see how that fits with their idea of how everything works, and redefine their headcanon as well.
I mean, essentially, the bits where they've got the headcanon are mostly built around the holes that have appeared in the lore, either because of loose ends, or because we just haven't answered a question yet.
Right.
So when we do these things and we answer a question and it's in a way that they are not expecting, it fills in the hole. And some people, they're not. They might not be happy with the way that we filled in that hole, but it works. I mean, it's kind of like again going back to Dishonor Amongst Thieves. The sort of like the cutscene where you see Zamrak blow up the wilderness. Everyone had in their head canon, he just sort of like turned up and just blew it all up, and then we filled in that detail. And now people can kind of build up their head canon around various other things that were decided in that cutscene.
Okay.
That cutscene opened a lot more narrative potential than it closed, I think. Because it asked some really interesting questions about what was actually going on in that scene.
Things were mentioned, sort of like alliances and other things were sort of mentioned during that cutscene that we can maybe expand on later.
I think there was an interesting perspective shift in the player base probably about 3 or 4 years ago, maybe, where before that point everything was just taken as fact. Everything that every NPC said was true. I'm not trying to put words in the mouths of the community here. But it's like it seems that we started to take a different approach to characterization, where we were aiming to flesh out characters more, make them more balanced, especially noticeable with the gods. And that I think players have shifted their understanding now that there is truth between what characters say and what events are seen.
Yeah.
That it's not always so black and white.
The narrators are not always entirely reliable.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which is in itself a TV trope.
Yes.
That's where we got the idea.
Why do quests take so long? Because obviously they're big pieces of content, but quests do take a long time to develop. Why do they take so long?
Because they're big pieces of content. Essentially, sort of like right the way back when I started, everyone assumed that because there was an update every week or other week, that everything that we made from a small quest to a full skill took exactly 1 week. Now, people have kind of got over that. They got over that quite quickly. But it's still the case that larger pieces of content take longer to develop.
There's a lot of people involved. There's a lot of back and forth. There's a team of sort of 6 to 10 people minimum working on it over a protracted period of time.
And then a lot of little bits of time of other people as well around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all that iteration and feedback means that we're reviewing and revising that project all the way through its development. We're trying to make something polished and beautiful that we're proud of and want to release to players and feel that they'd really enjoy. I mean, with Death of Chivalry, I probably wrote it about 3 times by the time I'd actually released it, and I feel it's much better for going through that kind of evolution. But it takes time to build that.
And certainly in recent years, the production quality of quests has ramped up. I mean, obviously there's going to be some subjectiveness to that, but objectively speaking, our assets are a lot more advanced than they ever used to be. The design that we try to implement is typically, well, we aim for at least to be a bit more refined and to not just retread old ground, so it's finding those gaps.
Yeah.
But also as well, a lot of the early stories were setting up ideas, promises, things like alien planets and the return of gods, and these things, you really want to do them justice to deliver on that early promise from the original content. So you kind of have to step up your game, and you have to put more time and more effort, I suppose, into creating these things, because you can't just do a really quick quest and throw out with reused assets and have the arrival of a new god or a new character or something like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, what have you dropped out from the quests you've built that you wish you'd been able to include?
That actually raises a point about development, that there is a stage between the quest is finished and releasing it, which is weeping over all the stuff that you had to do because you just didn't have time.
Yeah.
And again, it kind of comes in right at the very beginning where, you might want the quest to go in a certain way, but between the assets that you're going to have available or lore, or just as an example, there was in Bacon Quest, you were originally going to actively have to beat up the pickpocket yourself, but we ended up dropping that. But as a result, I was able to sneak more horrible references into the brief as a result. It was, I don't know, I think it might be like Disney animators or something like that said that they had a similar system where if they were told, oh, that's too much, you can't do that, they would put something worse in and try and get away with it. or at the very least be put back to the first version. And we kind of get that with some dialogue things that have happened and the rest of it. But it also does come down to what you've just got time for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We work to a strict schedule, and I get players asking me sort of why didn't the quest do this in it? Why wasn't more time spent on that, and so on? And the answer is, well, we can't done when it's done. We work to a weekly schedule.
Yeah.
Things need to come out, and so we have to drop things.
If you spent forever on one quest, you'd never make a second quest.
And any of us could easily spend a year or 2 years more time working on one quest, and that would mean no quests would ever come out.
Yes.
Yeah.
If we were just left to our own devices to do whatever we wanted.
There's also the thing of the elements that you drop are often the bits that have taken the most time to do. So, for example, doing one of a kind, there's a bit where you fly on the back of the dragon, and in the original design you had a whole sort of combat sequence where you were launching fireballs trying to attack, and I spent a great deal of time working on this, but it just, due to technical limitations and the amount of time that we had left, just wasn't feasible, and so I removed all of that. But I was able to add in a chunk more lore and stuff instead, because I wasn't spending all the time on this one little bit that was...
But that's the purpose of prototyping.
Exactly.
So you can quickly knock together this, create a proof of concept, see, will this actually work?
Yeah.
And then you can make that call, do I invest more time into making it fully fleshed out and releasable, or decide, okay, we're going to cut our losses now?
It's agonisingly painful to cut it. I'll point that out. It's like, no, but I can do it. I can...
Especially when you've spent so much time on it.
But you just have to make that call sometimes.
It's not always just a case of I can do it. It's like, can I do it? Sure, but can all of the art guys do it? Can QA have the time to test it? Is it going to just fall apart if we try to rush it and cram it in?
And is it actually fun?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not allowed to have fun in RuneScape. What are you doing?
Damn, I've been doing it wrong all these years.
It is true, though, that no idea is ever forgotten. We do keep banks of ideas, like individually, just working on a new project, you've had that previous idea. Now maybe we've got the tools and the capability to do an idea that didn't work before.
Yeah.
Or, you can just roll these ideas further into other content potentially, or give them to other developers, and eventually
some of the stuff that dropped from Fate of the Gods got rethought as a minigame, I think.
Well, that's something that's still hopefully going to be made one day. It might be. No, it's still not made. I should probably elaborate. It's kind of exposing a hole in the quest. That
the Musper Slayer thing came out, didn't it?
Oh, right, no, that was the idea of going back to RuneScape. We had the Nile Slayer tasks and the Muspar as well, and the Elder Divination expansions and the Ancient Combat. A lot came from that. Yeah, but
they were originally imagined as part of the quest, but there just wasn't.
Yeah, I was being overly ambitious with my time. And rolled it out into future projects though, so that was great. But there was also still a section between the Nihil pit and the peak of the mountain where you actually climb the mountain.
Okay.
And we had a nice white box full of Roddics. Roddics are NPC that I think it was Mod MattHe started off this idea that we just kind of map him down everywhere to test out height mapping to make sure that hills actually go up and you're not just running through the environment and things like that. And there is a white box of that volcano somewhere in game winding up. It's not something we've done before, and it's something I think I'd like to do in future.
Right.
So I mean, certainly, that's an idea that I would plan to take forward at some point.
Have you played each other's quests? I know Mod Bond earlier said he's played everybody's quests here, but have you all played each other's quests?
Well, I have a QuestScape, so I've played everything. And I think all of us do.
I don't know.
I don't on my tube account, because my tube account is rubbish, but I have played most of the quests in the test environment on my JMod, where I can cheat and set stats and stuff, which makes me a terrible human being, but I get to see the quest.
I'm the same. I've played a bunch of quests. Again, don't have a quest cape, and I kind of, as I said previously, just I've been going through them, but I've played the Penguin ones, played a bunch of the recce ones. I've played a good chunk of them.
It's often just interesting to see how the quest has evolved in that final stage. So you'll play the version that goes out to team feedback, and you play it when it goes live, and just see how much it's evolved through all giving their feedback and changing.
Or alternatively, how much of their feedback you ignored. Sorry, how much of your feedback they ignored. I told them to change that.
I have sat down to answer a bunch of queries on the forums about quests, and realised that they're talking about something different to the playthrough I did X many weeks before. Wait a minute, how's this work now? And realised it had been completely changed from the playthrough that I'd been involved in.
Yeah. And then when it goes through QA testing, then sometimes even the design will change at that stage too. There might be some fundamental problem with how it was developed that we had to make alterations. It's constantly evolving through the entire process.
Actually, that raises a good point. How does other content that comes in affect your development of the quest?
It can be complex. So, for example, Dishonor Among Thieves was in development while Dimension of Disaster was, and we both have Zimrigal in it. So we needed to develop Zimrigal in one stream, in one repository of data that were built in the quest, and then migrate it to a different stream and share our data between us.
But you also get the positives of that too, with, say, like the Tiny Majorat, with Tiny Haziel. If we're both working on Majorat content, we kind of pool resources to do things like this too.
Okay, and our final question for you. What quest would you most like to add? If you could have free reign to add a quest, what would it be at the moment?
I have been planning the next step in the Zombie Pirate quest thing since like 2008. Sort of like I went over onto Stellar Dawn, so we got sort of like there was the Clockwork Syringe added, but I've had the next one sort of like planning and floating around. I've been pitching it repeatedly, but it's never quite made it.
Never quite got to the top of the
well, it was
pile.
The next pirate quest was in the poll, but it lost to the Zamrak quest.
Right.
So we don't know. So like if it goes back to a poll, maybe it'll win. We don't know.
Okay.
There are so many continuation quests that I want to see come out. I mean, there's the pirates, obviously, more penguins, the next Elemental Workshop. From a personal standpoint, I'd love to finally do the sequel to Death of Chivalry, but obviously other quests have been waiting for a lot longer than I have. They should get their time in this one first.
Yeah, I'm going to cheat and kind of echo Stu's sentiment there. Is that I'd just love to see all of the 5th Age quest series concluded.
Right, okay.
We've made some small steps towards it. Some have now concluded, but we still have a bunch of series that it would be nice to at least iterate on, if not complete.
Okay.
You know what I'm going to say, don't you? Return of Lornab.
It's already happened.
Return of
It's
Lornab.
happened far more than it needs to.
Lornab all the way down, yeah?
Well, there's the obvious
and now
one.
Mod Raven.
So there's the obvious one for me, but actually one of the ones I'd really like to do is a storyline continuation kind of Heart of Stone, with the after effects of what Ariane did. And I really want to play with the kind of psychological implications of, she killed a friend. And I'd really, really like to do something with that, mostly because I like to turn everything dark and twisted, and I think it would be great.
You? No. Never.
Well, thank you everybody for coming in. Hopefully that's given some of our players a greater insight into quests, and I believe I'll be seeing some of you next week to talk about the 200th quest on the sofa.
Yeah.
Brilliant, thanks very much, and bye.
Bye.